Good day. This is Sylvie with another every other weekly health tip. And I just wanted to talk about Parkinson's because it's close to my heart right now. I have a family member who was diagnosed as having Parkinson's. Actually, my great grandfather had Parkinson's as well, and he passed quite some time ago. And I just wanted to explore possibilities and stay open to what might be possible in terms of healing and improvement with regards to the balance to the physical being that we would call Parkinson's, or that is labeled as Parkinson's. I find labels can be a little bit tricky in terms of healing, and just want to touch base on something I don't think I've mentioned this yet. It has to do with how doctors diagnose and how they communicate the information to their patients. And language is very powerful and very suggestive. So even myself, I had an experience, my doctor said, oh, you have this, what did he call it? It wasn't a condition, syndrome or something like that. I'd had on my gum, I had a brown spot, and on my lip, I had a brown spot. And he was saying a syndrome or condition or something to that effect. And he says, oh, you're probably going to die of cancer by the time you're 52. And I'm like, no. But imagine if I put a lot of faith in what he said and really believed him, that causes a whole bunch of things to happen in your brain. And well, I would be dead today if I listened to him, and I'm very, very far from dead. So that's pretty good. So I just took matters into my own hands, and that's when I started going gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. And quite remarkably, these spots actually disappeared. And that was right around where I was being diagnosed with something called Graves' disease as well, or the precursors to Graves' disease, which involves the thyroid. Somebody who's very adept and looks at me would know that I'm a thyroid type person, and that's one of the things I'm working on balancing. It's getting better and better all the time. Actually, today I'm feeling like it's looking pretty good. I've been doing some tweaking, so here we go. And so that kind of communication can be a trauma in and of itself. And some people almost call it it's almost like a hex, it's like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And the person believes it. And what happens is there's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, oh, you've got Parkinson's, it's incurable, we can just manage it, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Believe it. You follow through everything that you've been told is going to happen. So it's not necessary to go through that. So labels are a slippery slope. And I like to remind people that, take them with a grain of salt to a certain degree. And if somebody says that, realize that, oh, maybe there's something serious that I really need to take into account here. And it looks like my body is sending a very strong signal that it's strongly out of balance and it needs some serious help and support. So what can I do to support it? So doing my digging, and simply with my knowledge of myself and many people who have completely healed or put into remission, or however you want to put it, managed to eliminate all symptoms of some kind of label, then it's possible with anything. So I myself removed symptoms connected to imbalances that were labeled asthma, that were labeled Graves' disease, that were labeled severe sciatica. And I've had some very, very difficult health situations in the past. And now I just get little nudges here and there. It's like, oh, this is out of balance. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. and make some adjustments. So that's my 2 cents on that in terms of diagnosis. And it's because that's a scary diagnosis. So it would definitely affect us. You might even want to do some work on yourself in terms of just receiving that shock and trusting yourself. And then there's this the series that I encourage people to check into. It's called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. So I'm just referring to a piece of work, piece of writing, a set of CDs that were published. So you might want to check that out. They find that the average lifespan of doctors is somewhere between 50 and 60. So do we really want to be taking all of our health advice from them? They might be missing a few pieces. So in support of my family member and myself and anyone else, through the research that I was doing, I was finding that people labeled with having Parkinson's has really increased drastically in the past few years. So I have my theories. Some of them I can't say on YouTube. It has to do with the mitochondria, and it has to do with the electrical system. So one might want to do some digging in there. And it has to do with emotional shocks connected to survival and traumas connected to survival. And it could be an emotional shock, it could be a mental shock, or it could be a physical shock. So it could be any of the above situations to knock the system out of balance, and then someone will show or manifest symptoms that doctors would label as Parkinson's. And most people with these situations would have very similar symptoms and similar things going on in their body, like tremors, etc., and difficulty moving, and a lot of tightness going on. So this is what's happening. So what is the body trying to do? How is it trying to heal itself? So I have a number of modalities that I mentioned that may be helpful. I have things like grounding, magnetic therapy, manifestation. I mentioned so many. Let's see. I just did something on German New Medicine, which was my last video, that could be quite helpful as well. I mentioned homeopathy. So there are so many modalities, traditional Chinese medicine, which I haven't really talked about that much. There's a little bit of mention in some of the links that I mentioned down here. So definitely you can read my little blurb, and I have a lot of links of research that I did. So people who have eliminated their symptoms or drastically improved their symptoms to the point where they no longer need pharmaceuticals to manage the manifestation of what people would call Parkinson's. So that's very uplifting. So I thought it would be really nice to add that. And some other research in terms of potentially decreasing carbohydrates, increasing protein, animal protein, particularly red meat, has been noticed to find things. And then there's crazy stuff like lima beans, which may help. So you can check that out. I also had a video, I think Dr. Berg mentioned some foods that may be supportive in terms of someone rebalancing their system if they're having symptoms connected to Parkinson's. And a really important thing to note is actually dance. There's been research done that dance is huge in helping people recover from Parkinson's, or at least regain a lot of motion. And it speaks to a lot of the things that are going on in the brain and what dance does to the brain. And there's a really, really fun video. I really encourage you to look at it. I think it's by this psychiatrist called Love Heart or something. I even mentioned that it's fun, and he has people dancing in it too, and he's very animated and very positive. So just simply watching the video would probably raise your vibration and you feel better. I know I feel better every time I watch the video, no matter what state I'm in. So I used it when I was doing some supply teaching, and this young girl had never experienced dance, and after she saw this video, she was so inspired and decided that she wanted to pursue some kind of dancing, not professionally or anything, just actually take that on as some other thing to do to maintain joy and optimum health. So I was very excited and thrilled about that. So I highly recommend you look at that video, if no others, just for the fun of it, because it's so important to increase joy in your life, especially if you're suffering from something that is very difficult, or even if a loved one is suffering with something difficult, it can be quite painful to know that someone you really care about is going through all the suffering. So that video would be good for anyone under any circumstance, to raise the vibration and to learn more about the psychology and the physical health benefits of dance. So that's one option. And then there's acupressure points, acupuncture, there's traditional Chinese medicine, and I think in this one case they're starting to call it Asian medicine, or maybe it's something a little different. I'm not sure. There are so many modalities. It's difficult to keep track of every single one. I also wanted to mention that I actually know people who have removed all symptoms of things that were actually confirmed lupus. The person actually had to come back, because since they no longer had the symptoms, and they no longer wanted to be labeled as someone who had lupus, especially for their insurance, which was very expensive, this person had to actually get a certificate to go over the information to actually prove that actually this person had it, and then they no longer had it, and then they were actually able to change their insurance. So anything that could be potentially labeled as incurable by the allopathic medicine could be removed, in terms of, at the very least, the person is no longer experiencing any of the symptoms related to that imbalance. So I think that's a pretty good place to be. I know other people who have done the same with cancer. I know people who have done the same. I mentioned mine, and I think that's, I know someone who also removed all symptoms of Hashimoto's as well. So it is possible. So I like to really remind people of how remarkable our physical being is, and how it has its own intelligence, and it is always working on healing itself, even if sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable for us. And if we listen to the messages and support it rather than suppress, then it's amazing what the body can do in terms of rebalancing. And a lot of it has to do with our mindset and our belief systems. So I put some things to support people that way, to do work on that. And let's see, I think that's about it. So I added a lot of links to this video. So there's a lot to look at and to ponder and to work with healing. So I put healing things there. I mentioned a number of modalities. Some you may be familiar, some I've mentioned before, some are in my videos, some may not be. So definitely I encourage you to take responsibility for your health. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not offering medical information, medical advice. I'm simply giving you information, giving you a chance to explore new things that may benefit you, that you may or may not have been previously aware of. So I wish you all the best on your healing journey, and to continue to find joy in every aspect that you can, no matter how small, to help you along that journey. Bye-bye.